Okay. Move some things around here. Hello. It looks like we are live. How is everyone today? Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Jason Levine, and for the next 15-20 minutes or so, we're going to be talking about using proxies in Premiere Pro for more efficient 4K, 6K, 8K editing, or frankly, just in general. And I say that because one of the real benefits of using our proxy workflow, aside from just unifying all the formats if you're using multiple formats, is that a lot of those formats you might be using, especially if they're coming off of iPhones or DSLRs or mirrorless cameras, you're probably working with a lot of compressed media, MP4s, H.264, H.265 content. And as a result of that, Premiere and all of your applications are constantly fighting that, compressed MP4. So if you transcode into something like ProRes or GoPro Cineform or DNX HD, DNX HR, one, those files are optimized to play back faster, more efficiently in Premiere. But really, especially if you're working in larger rasters, it just makes the editing process that much more delightful. Now, you don't have to. That's always been one of our mantras in Premiere, is that you can work natively with your file formats. And at many times, it's not necessary. But once you get into the groove of doing it, it's actually great. And the cool thing is that it actually happens in the background anyway. So, yes, there's a storage component to it. Yes, there's a time component to it, but not really. And you're going to see that here. So quick shout out to some of our viewers in the chat. Raul, Cezur, Claudio, Shiraz. Very nice to see you as always. Crouch Wahid from Algeria. Eric Sattler. All right. Do I only recommend proxies? What about storage conversion? Yes, effectively, I'm assuming you mean sort of the same thing. You can, of course, convert to high-end ProRes or high-end DNX as opposed to smaller, lightweight versions. This is a process that you can also do during the proxy creation process, so I'll show you that as well. Nice to see you, John Drinkwater, Dan Sutton from Sacramento, Abdul, Sparky Sorensen. All right. Had some issues today with audio tracks from FS5 clips, trying to make proxies. Never figured it out, just going to relink to 4K later. Interesting, Sparky. So I will talk about that a bit. There are some things that need to know with regard to making proxies. Now, I'm not going to go through the entire process of making ingest presets today. I have another video, which I'll link to in the chat when we're done, that takes you through that process. Because yes, there can be stopgaps if the proxy preset that you're using doesn't match, in particular, the audio channel layout, which is likely what you ran into with FS5. So I'll link to that so that you can find it, but I'll talk to that in just a couple of minutes. Zachariah, Chris Pendy, Word What's Up, Simon Schofield, Yossi Vayner. All right. Yossi, yeah, if you've got a problem, just hit me up on Twitter, okay? That'll be perfect. Dan, PJ Feldberg, Craig, how's it going? Craig, what's up? Zach Bookout, any support for B-Raw coming? I don't have anything that I can talk about there, but it is high on the list and certainly high on the request list as well, Zach. I know, I wish. Now, again, just with regard to B-Raw, Blackmagic Raw, there is a third-party company that is currently make. I don't know if it's a wrapper or a codec or something that will allow you to use Blackmagic Raw inside of Premiere, but it's third party. I don't remember who does it, but it's available now. We just don't have it natively just yet. Thank you so much, Sparky. All right. Joe Axe, have I ever tried to fix old concert movie video? Yes, I have. Specifically what you want to know, though, I'm not sure. Nazmi from South Africa, Cape Town, very nice to see you. Stan Arthur, what's up? Rock on, hope to see you at NAB soon. And Leo. Okay. And Desiree and V. Chichine joining us on Twitter Periscope, as well as some of our friends here on YouTube. Pierre Julien, Desiree, Rick, Hamid, Donald, Psycho, how's it going? Toot Toot Monster for Life. All right. Nice. Rick Eggers using 5.7K 360 VR footage with proxies and AE and rocking it. Very nice. Evil Cerise, Chris, and Sassfront. Hi. Okay. So let's go ahead and bounce over to Premiere Pro. We're going to start fresh and clean with some content that I shot just last week in San Francisco. Probably going to be Adobe stock content. And again, it's 4K, shot on the iPhone. I'm probably going to dress some of it up. I've been in the process of kind of cutting this little San Francisco skyline documentary for years already. So again, just to have that 4K MP4 content, I already know that performance-wise, yeah, it's okay. But if I unify it into something like ProRes LT or DNX, it's just going to be better, and it's going to give me that delightful editing experience that I want. And I'm not just going to have to fight, as you sometimes do, with, as the system is getting bogged down with other things, and older, frankly, all right? My once brand new iMac 5K is now already, 18 months old or something. Okay, so let's go ahead and start a new project, and we'll call this one SF Skies March 2019. I'll stick it, I've got a folder on the desktop, that's fine. I'm going to use GPU acceleration metal, and I'll leave these other things at the defaults. Now, right in here from the new project dialog is actually where you can access your proxy creation and or ingest settings right from here. Now, I'll show you again inside the app where that lives as well in case you forget to do this. But here's where you can turn this on. So real quickly, you've got 4 basic options here. The first is copy. So that's just a straight copy. That doesn't actually make any proxies for you. It just copies the media from the media card or wherever it's coming off of to some other place. Then you have transcode. Transcode is doing kind of what someone was asking in the chat I was answering a moment ago. Hello, Juan. Where you've got content in whatever format it may be, whether it's H.264, maybe it's red content, maybe it's Arri Alexa, and you want to transcode it into something unified as an intermediate codec. Not necessarily smaller, not necessarily leaner, but just something unified. That's what you would use transcode for. Then you have create proxies, which will not copy the media. It'll just build proxy files from that native media, which in my case is HEVC content off the iPhone. And then you have copy and create proxies, which does both. So it'll copy the media into a format of your choice, and it'll also create proxies into the format of your choice. So all of this can be done right here at the start, and all of this will happen in the background. We're just going to choose create proxies for today, and then you have to choose a preset. Now I have a couple of custom ones in here. I'll come back to my custom one. Because this is a standard UHD frame size, I can very easily and effectively use the 1280-720 ProRes 422 proxy. Now, a couple of months ago, I typically didn't recommend ProRes because you were effectively cutting out the Windows users. Well, several months ago, we added full support, import, and export, or I should say creation and export of ProRes on both Mac and Windows. So now regardless of what platform you're using, what OS you're using, you can create ProRes media, you can export ProRes media, you can import ProRes media, you can export. So I happen to really like ProRes proxies. They're fast, they're lean, they're a little smaller than GoPro Cineform, and they're just going to do the job. Because it knows that this is what we need, by default, the primary destination here is same as project, and then the proxy destination, same as project, or you can use a different destination, or you can stick your proxies in CC, or you can choose a custom location. I like to keep my proxies right where the project lives just to keep it all together for archiving later. Just makes my life a little bit easier, and we're good to go. So with that box checked and the preset selected, when I click OK, it builds my new project, and then right away what I have the ability to do is start dragging media in. So if I've got my media browser over here, I'm going to do that. Let's go ahead and see if I can put these side by side. Yeah, I think this will work okay. All right, I'm going to pull up the project panel here. So I've got my media living on the desktop. Shrink this up. So we'll go to users here. And by the way, I'll save questions for the end, okay? So we can get through this kind of quickly. New content, here we go. Let's go into thumbnail view. All right. And here you can see all the footage that I shot in San Francisco with our durations. And again, this is all hover scrubbable, right? So as we hover over it, you can see not a lot of movement in a lot of these shots here. You're seeing the skies were just so beautiful and so different this last week when I was there. One day it was like this, like blue and clouds and beautiful, like golden hour sunset. And then another day it was gray and looked like the end of the world. Hence why I'm making this little sort of documentary from this vantage point of all these San Francisco skylines. Okay, So let's just choose for now two clips, and I'm just doing that just for time. We'll choose this one here and perhaps this one here, or heck, we'll even do, well, yeah, we'll do 3 clips. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take those 3 clips. Now, if I wanted to, I could set in and out points on each of those. If we wanted to, I'm just going to take the whole clip because they're fairly short at this point in time. Remember that you can scrub through them, and if you just very briefly, I'll show you, click inside of a clip, you'll notice that you get a little playhead here, and with this playhead you can use the I and O keys to set your in and out points for that specific media. So that's hella useful, entirely up to you. We're going to grab the whole thing here, 3 clips, and drag them into the project panel. And when I do that, now it's going to allow us just to start editing as we expected. But what is happening in the background, if I click over to Media Encoder, is that you'll see that it's taken those clips and automatically it begins transcoding them as I dragged them into the project panel. So I didn't have to think about it. I didn't have to tell it to do anything. It's automatically generated those proxies. Now these are fairly short clips. You can see 18 seconds, 19 seconds. So it happened quickly. But that's the idea, is I didn't actually have to wait for the proxies to be created to begin editing. I could just take any one of these, right-click, new sequence from clip, and we now have a 4K sequence, a 4K timeline, and we're good to go, right? And as those proxies begin generating, it will attach them to this master footage. Now, there's a couple of cool little things that you need to know and be aware of when working with proxies. The first is a change to some of the metadata fields that you see inside the project panel. All right. So in the project panel, if we click over here, I'm going to zoom in for you. And at the bottom of the menu, you have Metadata Display. All right. Let's go ahead and choose that. And this is going to allow you to edit or modify what metadata you're seeing in the project panel, which right now is almost everything. I don't have it expanded. In fact, here, let me expand it first so you can see what's showing there. So all of these things up here. Frame rate, media start, end, duration, video, in, out, subclip, all this other stuff. You know, not all of this is necessary for me. You can see it goes on and on and on. There are literally hundreds of fields of metadata that you can add here. I have a little custom version that I've created, and all of the metadata that I'm displaying can be found under this first section here, Premiere Pro Project Metadata. Now, there's a couple of essential fields in here. I'll go to my custom one that I want to showcase. Namely, this one here, status, which is going to show you the status of your proxy online or offline. And then there's also a new proxy metadata field as well that will show you if the proxies are attached. So again, you can select the checkboxes that you want. You can save or create a new schema for this. Click OK, and it automatically conforms to that. You can see right away it's just a smaller series of data. I don't need to see all those other things. For me, frame rate, duration, the total length, what the raster, audio info, status, codec, and proxy. That's primarily what I need. Sometimes people want the in and out inside the metadata here. If you view it from there, great. If you don't show it. You don't have to. I like to drag the proxy status over to here, and I will often like to drag the codec here as well, especially if you're working with mixed codecs. All right? So now that this is done, you can see that the proxies are attached, and these are originally HEVC. Now, if I take all these clips, I'm going to drag the others into the timeline here, all right? And we play them back. What happens? Well, again, you have to be sure that you're actually viewing the proxies. The idea here being that if I'm in 4K, I want the best performance for doing this, right? I mean, that's sort of the whole point. So how do I know if I'm working with proxies? Well, you'll know using the proxy toggle button, which can be found inside the program monitor right here. Now, you may not have that button inside your buttons, inside the button editor. So we're going to click on the plus symbol here, which brings up the button editor. And if it's not already in your buttons, you can simply take it from here and drag it down into the panel below like this. Okay, you can also drag them off by clicking and dragging them up, all right? But this is the button you want, toggle proxies, okay? So when I click on this, when it's blue, as you can see here, that means we are now playing back with proxies. So if I go ahead and just, full screen on this and play back, All right, you can also see by our dropped frame indicator in full, full size on here, green. We're not seeing any dropped frames. It's also pixelated, right? Yes, because these proxies are natively 720p, whereas the original footage is 2160p. Now, when I stop, of course, it will sharpen up a bit, but I'm also, right, I'm expanding to fit the window that's 720p. So it's just never going to look quite as sharp in this display right now. Okay, fine, that's cool. The whole point is better performance, better scrubbing, better playback. Now, what if I want to start adding color correction or other elements to this and actually see how it's going to look on that content? Well, this is how you can switch back to the native media. And this is really, truly one of my, it's not just favorite things, it's such a cool way of how we've implemented the proxy workflow, because you don't have to do any manual relinking. You don't have to do anything. Once the proxies are attached, it knows, because you told it, where that native media is. So if I want to see the native media in this same view, all I have to do is unclick the box here, and now I'm looking at the native media. And you may have noticed on screen, even though I'm zoomed in, it went from very pixelated and blurry to, again, clean and sharp, all right? Here it is before, right? And you can just see it's very just noisy, pixelated. Yeah, because it's blown up 720, native 4K, nice, all right? Now, to the naked eye, of course, that might be harder to see. So what about a typical workflow for proxies is adding some kind of overlay, whether it's timecode or camera or time of day or some kind of image overlay, a logo, many options. Now, again, I'm going to link to the full proxy creation video right after this inside the chat. Let me show you how you do that. So as mentioned, you can always access the ingest and proxy settings even once the project has been started. So let's go up to the File menu, Project Settings, and we're going to go to Ingest Settings. And this is the exact same thing that we saw at the top of the broadcast here when we were starting the new project. So I'll choose Ingest Settings, and here we are back in this same window, modal window, all right? If I go to my proxy preset here, I have one in here called For Proxy. Now this uses the same ProRes LT 720p, except that I added, I don't know if this means I added some kind of a Lumetri grade, time code, NM, I'm forgetting my own abbreviations. And there's a LUT on here, and I don't know what NM is supposed to mean. I can't remember. And it's mono audio, okay? As mentioned, some Sparky was asking before, audio files, audio channels in your content can sometimes cause creation issues with some of the pre-selected presets, the pre-populated presets. So you just want to make sure that you build a proxy preset that has the same number of channels, the same configuration as the content that you're making the proxies from. So if you're working with FS5 or Sony, typically you're working with 8 channels or sometimes 4. You want a proxy that also has 8 channels, all right? And this is probably why you ran into some issues with that. This video that I have addresses that. Stay tuned, I'll post it into the chat. So now I want to choose this preset because it has some watermarking on there. So then I really know that I'm working with proxies, okay? Sometimes it's just easy to get confused, or maybe you're with a client and you forget and they're looking at the content thinking, oh, it looks soft, whatever. These things happen. Doesn't matter, it just depends how you like to work. So I'm going to choose the For Proxy preset, click OK. Now I'm going to take a couple of these other clips, let's take another 3 while we're at it, and drag those into the project panel. And once again, these will start building in the background. Now you'll notice it says offline up here because right now they're transcoding in the background. Oh, we've already attached one. Let's grab one that hasn't yet been attached. All right, scroll over here, start playback. All right, and I can already have this working, playing in the timeline. Even though the proxy is being generated in the background, it's still going to let me work and edit and cut and set in and outs and do things regardless. So there's no stopping, right? So the proxy creation is happening. You can see if we flick over to Media, oh, now it just finished. And if we come back over to Premiere, there you go. They are all attached, okay? So once again, I can take our footage here. Let's go into our timeline, shrink it up. Let's add the other clips that we just added here. All right, here's another one. And here's the other one. All right. And you're looking at this and you're going, well, I don't see the overlay. I don't see the watermark. He screwed it up. No, no, no. We have to turn on the proxy, right? See, it's gray, which means we're not viewing it yet. We want to toggle it on. So when I turn it on, there we go. Now you can very clearly see, yeah, so I had like a frame counter on here. I don't know why I didn't do standard time code. I've got my Jace's Places logo, and I've got the original, I'm referencing the original clip name here, okay? Nice, not dropping any frames. It shouldn't because it's 720p, right? Real easy. Let's just scroll ahead so you can see. Same thing here, right? Got my frame counter, my logo up there. Same thing over here, right? And similarly, if we take this shot, right? And if I toggle the proxy button again, now we know that we're looking at the original because there's no watermark. There's no logo, there's no time code, there's no LUT, whatever it is. Same thing here, okay? On, off, on, off. Simple, easy. If you're going to be working on an older system, especially, or a laptop system, proxies are the way to go. It just makes life easier. Can you mix and match H.264, H.265, Airy, Red, whatever? Yes, Premiere will let you throw all of that into the timeline and play it, and that's why you have fractional playback resolutions. If you're in 6K, 8K, you may have to be in 1/8 or 1/16 to get full real-time playback. Nicely, if you're in 8K, it still doesn't look terribly pixelated because there's so much data there. But that's what that's for. That solves that problem. But what if you don't want to be in 1/16, right? What if you want to be in full and you're going to be in a smaller editing window, but you just want smoother scrubbability? This is really where proxies rock. And if you're going to be using, again, 5K, 6K, 8K, and beyond, it's just such a necessity. That media is so heavy. Why put that additional stress on your machine? Just let it work more efficiently. And this is how we do it. And we do it in the background, and you have a one-click fix for swapping between native and proxy. Additionally, if you don't have proxies, or maybe you have proxies created from another source, if you select the masters in your project panel, you can go to proxy, and then you can attach proxies. Or again, if you've never had anything, you can reconnect full res media from existing lower res versions, right? Maybe they weren't designed as proxies. Someone was asking before, they were making intermediate versions. You can do all the reconnection after the fact, and it's pretty simple. It uses our locate panel, which if you're ever, offlining or missing footage, you've seen that window before. It's really simple. We make it really flexible for you. Simple and easy proxy creation with the latest version of Premiere Pro CC 2019. All right, so let me go ahead and bounce back over to the chat. We'll take a couple of questions here, and then I will send you on your way, all right? Maybe I'll just stay in the app while I'm doing these for the moment. Okay, let's look over at YouTube, see if we've got any here. Glenn from Port Elizabeth, South Africa, okay. Will Coop. For us dudes in the PC world, can we use Apple ProRes proxy? Yes. So yes, that was one of the things I said up front. Will, you may have missed it. As of a few months ago, we added ProRes import and export on Windows. So yes, you have full ProRes capability now on Windows in Premiere Pro, which is awesome. Voice of Dissent. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Rick Yeager, I have to be in quarter preview even using proxy sometimes. Yeah, Rick, and there's a lot of contributing factors to why that may be, right? People ask me that all the time because they'll say, well, I made proxies on 1080 and I'm still in quarter res. Well, the complexity of the timeline, free space, GPU acceleration, lumetri, there's many factors involved there, even sometimes when it's clean and raw, all right? Machines vary, performance varies. The question is, are you getting good, at least smooth scrubbability at quarter res with a proxy versus quarter res with the native media? And if the answer is yes, then awesome. If the answer is, well, it's the same, then we have to deduce some other issue that perhaps may be going on. But it does vary. And again, there's other, depending upon the type of GPU acceleration you're using, OpenCL versus perhaps Metal on the Mac, or NVIDIA CUDA on Mac or PC, depending upon which system you're using. These things can all affect playback performance. So good question, and glad you brought that up. All right. Going back over to Facebook here. All right. PJ Feldberg, you have issues with 180 degrees rotated footage using proxies. What are the issues you are having? Let me know. You can also hit me up on Twitter at Beetlejace. Leo Enrique, hello. Zach Bookout, looking forward to seeing you at NAB for sure. Oh, Joe, you're trying to fix an old Kiss concert. Nice. Your iPhone 6S did terribly at the concert last Saturday. It's funny. They're coming to Arizona, too. I would love to see them. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to. Yeah, I mean, if you're trying to fix the overmodulated, distorted audio, there's only so much you can do. And if the audio is so loud that it was causing ripples and shakes in the video, I mean, there's only so much you can do. You can try and stabilize. You might be able to correct some of the darkness within Lumetri. It's obviously limited depending upon, or perhaps it's really overexposed. Again, you're dealing with, especially on a 6S, super compressed H.264, so it just depends. But I've done it, and sometimes it can look great, but you got to be in kind of the best position, best scenario. Okay. Abdel Hakim. Okay, you can't render footage with Alpha Channel and After Effects using QuickTime. What format are you trying to use? You should be using, again, if we're going the ProRes route, ProRes 444 is what you want to export if you want to preserve Alpha Channel. Also animation codec, but I would prefer ProRes 444 for performance in general. Mazio, yes, this will be available to watch on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube immediately after we stop. All right. Nina Jo Wells, how are you? Long time no see. Nice to see you live and in comment. Samuel Kongsat, full screen, nice. All right. Good morning, Peter Whiter. Stephanie Reed, always lovely to see you. Third cup of coffee and watching Gilmore Girls. Oh, nice. Isn't that funny? I actually watched an episode of Gilmore Girls last night. Strange, random. Love that show. All right. Justin Brown, will Premiere Pro offer future color space options for sequences like Rec 2020 for HDR? Isn't PPP locked to Rec 709 currently? Justin Brown, so these are things that we are working towards. Now, you have some new options for display color management, which will conform to based on the type of display that you have. And of course, you can adjust the viewable color space based on several different presets here for the scopes specifically. So you can monitor in 601, 709, or 2020. Hopefully these are coming through over on stream. But yes, at present, we don't have like what After Effects and Photoshop have. I don't have an ETA for you there, but this is very high on the request list. Thank you, Khaled. Appreciate that. Okay. All right, I see PJ Feldberg. You're having issues with 180-degree rotated footage. They're not turned around, so when I turn them around, my render's turned around. Yeah, I'm not really sure. I'm not sure that's a problem, PJ, with how you're creating the proxy, or if there's something it's not rendering. I mean, the proxy is just going to render out from the native footage. So if you're trying to export and then use that export as a proxy and it's somehow not applying the effect, I think I need a little more detail there. I'm sorry, I'm not quite understanding what you're asking. Sam Hood, +1 for the drop frame indicator in the program window. You had no idea that existed until today. Oh, yes, and incidentally, thank you, Sam, for pointing that out. It's great. I always talk about that. You can find that in the wrench menu, flyout menu here in the program monitor, and it's right here, show drop frame indicator. This is also where you have like time rule. There's all sorts of things in here that a lot of people don't see all the time. The safe margins are here, closed caption display. There's also this high quality playback, which I enable all the time. If you disable that, I don't think it's on by default. That will also take a little of the stress off of your machine, CPU, and or GPU, depending upon what you're doing, and potentially give you smoother playback at higher fractional resolutions. I keep this on because I just always kind of want to see, especially native media, in the best quality. But that can be disabled as well. All right, Gabrielle. Okay, Craig, Cinepack. Nice. The Henri, cool. All right. Well, that looks like it's it. What's up, Schism? Amp Pruitt up on Twitter Periscope. Nice to see you. 15 for 2. Nice to see you as well. No questions over there. Okay, everyone. Well, thank you so much. This was great. Appreciate you joining the stream. I will be back tomorrow, and tomorrow we're going to be talking about a new update, or I should say a new update to Adobe Capture, which if you're not familiar with Adobe Capture, it's an incredible mobile app available for iOS and Android. This is something that allows you to create color swatches for Photoshop, for Illustrator. It allows you to find fonts and discover the type that's being used simply by taking a photo, adding that to your Lumetri libraries, to your CC libraries. So it'll automatically find the right font, find the correct font under Adobe Fonts for you, synchronize to your desktop. It's awesome. You can create patterns from there. You can vectorize anything and turn it into live vectors inside of Illustrator or animated vectors inside of After Effects with the shape module. And now we have the looks module, which allows you to capture color and light from an existing image, like a reference image, or wherever you are. Snap a photo and it will build a look, or effectively a 32-bit LUT that you can then use inside of Premiere Pro and After Effects to apply to your content. So I'll be covering that tomorrow. What is up, Steph Suriano, joining us on Periscope. Very nice to see you. Sorry, it's the end of the stream. In any case, join me tomorrow. It'll be around 11 a.m. Pacific time for the live stream on how to use Adobe Capture CC to create looks, to capture that emotional connection that we have to time and place, time of day, color and light, and apply that look instantly to your footage. So until then, thank you so much for joining me on Twitter, Periscope, Facebook, and YouTube. You'll be able to watch the replays right now. And until tomorrow, we'll see you again. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.